Hi, my name is Alan Speakman. I'm a member of the Bob's CNC Facebook group, and it's come up that there are a lot of questions from beginners, newbies, etc., either new to computers or new to CNC or both. So I thought I'd put together this paper on some of the beginners' issues I've seen in my corporate life of new users, computer users, and their hurdles. This is the third entry now into the tutorials. And this time I'm going to look at a quick tutorial on file storage, drives, folders, subfolders, and actually searching. So let's go take a look. What do we got? In general, when you buy a PC and all that, everybody's all excited. And they want to know now what do I do? And that's okay. Everybody goes through it. And they want to know about installing software and applications, and that's fine. If you want, you shouldn't want to know about that stuff. But there's more to it. It's not just on the computer. So that gets us into the issue of drives and folders and subfolders and all that. Let's take a look. Let's see. What's a drive? Let's start there. What's a drive? There's one now. This is a Seagate, 500 gigs. That's half a terabyte. That's standard in all your usual towers and all that. Just a 500 gig drive. No big deal. I hope that everybody's at least familiar with that much. Inside of this are platters. They spin, well, this one spins, I think, at 7,200 RPM. And there are little tiny read-write heads in there that float above the drives, and that's how you actually read and write data, ones and zeros, onto the drive. Well, that's exciting. What else are drives? I have one of these. It's a little docking station, and when I tear a computer apart, I'll save the old drives, and I still want to be able to get at them, but this is an easy way to simply plug it right into a USB port, and I've got another drive. So that's handy. Oh, look at this. I have one of these too. This is only 2 gigs. It fits in the palm of your hand. It works. It's a drive, and I will show you more about how you know it's a drive in a minute. But here's my favorites. These are great for backups. SanDisk, wonderful, love them. Oh, the customers love them too, so that's a good sign. Let's see, USB, that's a 2.0. No, I'd go with a faster one. Here's a Samsung. We've talked about this before. So that's good. All very good. Ooh, there's a terabyte SanDisk for $170. And again, don't be taken in by these foolish things about 2 terabytes for $40. That's a ripoff. Don't do it. I repeat that. In general, something like the Samsung, these are Micro Centers, SanDisk, they're good for backups. Wonderful, wonderful drives. So, what else? Oh, look. I have one of these right now installed in this machine. This is your little SD cards. Actually, I use it on the camera, but plugs right into the computer. It becomes a drive, and you can see the files on it. That's pretty nice. What else is a drive? Oh, little mini micro infinitesimally small drives, but still a drive. I don't know if I have any computers that can read the little buggers, but you can get adapters. And believe it or not, I have this also. This is an MP3 player, but it can act as a drive. Just plug it in, takes a drive letter, and there you go. So let's start poking around and see what we can find. I'm going to File Manager down here. I hope you can see the little folder, and here's my mouse jumping around. And let's take a look. You know you're talking about a drive like this one because it's got a drive letter with a colon following it, D colon. In this case, right now, that's my D drive. If I were to plug that card into a different computer, it might take a different drive letter. It would still have the same files and folders on it, but it would simply be another drive with another letter followed by a colon. Here's a Canon. This is right out of the camera. Drive letter, colon. And here's my typical one, I call it last. You can rename these drives. And that's, what is that? That's F drive, I think. F drive with a colon. The drive letter in the colon tells you it's a drive. So inside the drive, think of a drive as no more than just a filing cabinet. That's it. That's all. Here's a filing cabinet called Last One. Here's another one called Canon. Here's another one called Garage. And each one has a letter and a colon. So that's all they are, filing cabinets. And inside of filing cabinets, you've got folders. And let's see here. I've got a Bob CNC folder in here somewhere. And inside that folder, there are other folders. And I do that for organizations. Let's see, what have I got? I've got Barb's sign. Okay, that's got just files in it, but it could hold another folder. To give you an idea of how deep this folder structure can go, this is the folder structure for an application I'm using. And I use it for graphics. And you can see that on the desktop, which itself is really a folder, there's, let's see, somewhere in there, right there is an Alan Speakman folder. Inside of that folder is an app data. Inside of that folder is a local. Inside of that folder is a packages. Inside of that folder is this monstrosity. Inside of that is local state. Inside of that is files. Inside of that is S0 and then 734. And inside of all of that is the attachments folder. So that will give you an idea of how elaborate the folder structure can be. It's very, 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 very crucial that when someone asks you, if you're having a problem with a file, they may ask you where it's located. And you're going to need to be able to say, oh, it's on this drive inside of this folder, which holds another folder, which holds another folder, which holds another folder. You want to be able to talk in that kind of language. Coming from a world of tech support for 7 years supporting operating systems, it is so frustrating to try to help somebody work on a file, and you ask, where is the file? And the customer replies, it's on the computer. That doesn't cut it. Where on the computer? What drive is it on? And what folder structure is it in? That's critical. And that is true also. Let's see if I can find something here. Let me minimize this. And let's go to this. Also critical about when you install software, like here's Inkscape, for instance. If I install it, I may want to install the software into my own folder structure. That is to say, I will pick the drive, and I will set up and create the folder structure. And all of that is done through these menus up here. And why, look, if I wanted to create a new folder, I could do it. And if I let's create a new folder. Let's do that. Look at that. Now I have, on this PC, I have the F drive, I can tell because it's got the letter and a colon. And I have a new test folder inside of that. And now you can see the structure right up here. And this is going to vary by operating systems and the way you've got it configured. But one way or another, you should be able to track down what drive you're talking about and what folder you're in. So there you go. Let's go back up on this one. So here we can take a look at this. Here's my Bob CNC, various friends, customers, etc., 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 etc. So that's your general idea for folders. What else should I talk about? A big deal is finding information. And what I usually do, and again, you can see the structure as it's set up right here. Here's this PC, which contains all these things, including the drives. So you can start to pick and choose what you want. One of the big things to always remember with Windows, starting with Windows 95 and later, is the power of the right click. That will tell you a lot about that right there. Now this is my drive. This will give you an idea about drive size and contents. This is my go-to drive. It contains total about 128 gigs. That's gigs, by the way. and the free space there is about 95 gigs. This is pretty much everything I've ever created, aside from my music and my movies, those libraries. But that will give you an idea of how big a gigabyte is. And the last thing I want to touch upon is something extremely important, and that is finding files. I click on a drive over here and I say, okay, I want to find some files, let's say in the last one. And I click and say, let's say I want to find Admont. I want to be sure that I'm searching either just the file names or the file contents. I'll show you how to do that, at least with this file manager. If I say go ahead and look for Admont, and let's see, it started. What I can do is stop this right there and say, wait a second. This gives me access to my search tab. And in the search tab, and if you go into your advanced options, and this is going to vary machine to machine, operating system to operating system, and it depends on whether you have an Acer or a Dell or an HP. Sometimes the companies change the File Explorer. So you're going to have to poke around and find it, or look it up, Google on it. One of the things that's really important is decide whether you want to look for file contents also. And there it is right there. You can see it's checked. File contents are very important, and they will look for text inside of text type files. That includes doc files, TXT files, but it can also include things like Excel files. What it will not do is find let's say you've got a billboard picture with the word Tums on the billboard. It's not going to find it because it's a picture. So there we go. But just in general, that's a big deal for trying to find files. And when it does find a file, it will show you exactly the path that the file is on, and that's how you know where your files are located. So anyway, the File Manager, or File Explorer rather, you play with it, explore it. Don't delete anything. For heaven's sakes, don't delete things. Just look around and get a good feeling for the drives, and the folders, and subfolders, all that kind of thing, and try and find certain files and see if you can. So I hope that should do it for this lesson, and we'll take your talking. I'll go back to the paper actually, do some talking there, and we'll see what we've got. So let me see if I can turn this thing off, and hopefully this will be the end of it. All right, so long.